Alrighty. Welcome to the Fall River Conservation Commission meeting, held here at the public hearing on Monday, February 3rd, 2020, 5:30, first floor meeting room, One Government Center, Fall River. Pursuant to the open meeting laws, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recording and transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and deemed acknowledgeable and permissible. Can we have roll call?
Walsh on roll. Andrew Liss.
John Brandt.
James Hornsby.
Bill Roth, Planning Director, and also Patty Aguiar is with us as the recording secretary. And Fall River Government Access TV is Gary Lee.
All right. First on the agenda is a notice of intent. ANRAD NOI file number SE-024-743, applicant Mark Shea, owner Joan St. Orange. Probably saying that wrong.
Yeah,
Project location is Terry Marie Way, Assessors Map T-25-65, filed by Borowski's Engineering on behalf of the owner applicant.
My name is Jim Walsh, representing Alex Gordetsky.
Do you have the legal ad?
Pardon me?
The legal ad.
Yes.
They all have plans.
That's okay. Do you want me on the side?
Yeah, go and
Okay.
sit. Your name and your address for the record, please.
Jim Walsh, 147 Blossom Road, Westport. Environmental consultant. Essentially, I was asked to look at this lot, doing by vegetation observation and auger holes, determine the wetlands on the property, flags number 100 through 107 from property line to property line. That's essentially it. It's a very steep lot and it collects water down there at the bottom.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday.
And the wetlands crosses the retaining wall, or the old stone wall?
Pardon me?
The old, is it an old stone wall between the 56 and 58 contour?
The stone wall is entirely on the property, and there's the main wetlands are on the west side of the stone wall, but the stone wall has caused a backup of hydrology mostly, but wetland vegetation on the east side of the wall.
As well. Mr. Chairman, obviously a site visit, I'm recommending that that since no one on the commission is a wetland scientist and no one on staff is, to be consistent with what we've done with the other ANRADs over the last 2 years, I'm reckoning that that the commission can do a site visit if they wish, but a third-party wetland scientist at the applicant's expense needs to be hired to confirm the line on behalf of the board. And that we need to work with the engineer and the thing. Probably be pretty standard. It's not that difficult. We have a wetland scientist that we used on the last ANRAD, was very reasonable.
Okay.
So.
Does anyone have a question?
I was out there this week, and yeah, there was a little bit of water at the bottom, right? You got the rock wall that comes across, then about halfway through there's reeds and water. So what is it you're looking to do there? Put a house or 2 houses?
Well, that's going to be determined by the approval of the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we know how much upland is available, then the owner and the engineer can decide what will work.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So-
the scientists will help us out with
Sure. Yeah, I'm recommending hiring the same person that did the ANRAD over at the last big ANRAD we did.
Excuse me. Can I speak? Because I'm in a butter. I'm a low end where it's wet.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, ma'am.
Well, are we
That's okay.
done with that portion of it?
I think we're done with this
No.
portion.
Okay. If you would please come down and state your name and your address for the record,
Right,
please.
that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Donna Pettit, and I live right below the lot that we're talking about. And a little bit of water is not just a little bit of water. I've got pictures too. August of 2018, May of 2017, thereabouts anyway, I've got pictures. I get 7 inches of water in my yard that runs down from that lot. So we're not talking about just a little bit of water. Yes, there is I guess it was a ditch that someone drove across, right over my fence, which is on my property line, that collects the water, but it doesn't collect all of the water. That water just keeps coming. So I'm a little bit concerned, once we upset the ground that's there, that absorbs some of that, it could possibly end up in my yard.
That's wet.
Well, that's why we're gonna go
It's,
the
I
route.
mean, my dogs never have dry feet when they come in the house.
I will
Never.
let you know, tonight's meeting is about, if you want to come here, I can show you. Tonight's meeting is strictly about this applicant has hired this consultant.
Yep.
And he says that this green line is the edge of the wetland line.
Okay.
The Conservation Commission has to confirm that.
Okay.
Well, we're going to hire a third-party consultant that will confirm that this is the wetland line
Okay.
based on the rules.
All right.
Once that's done, then a development plan will come in, and at that time, depending on what that is, we will look at talking about drainage and those sorts of
Okay,
things.
so, and I'll get a notice for that.
Unless it, if they're trying to subdivide the property,
Mhm.
you will. If they're strictly trying to put a single-family house on it, it would be done through site plan review,
Okay.
and that's administrative,
Okay.
which,
But they would still
It's-
manage any drainage that's coming my way, right?
drainage is looked at through site plan review. However, that's administrative, and
Mhm.
no notice is given.
That's okay, I don't
Okay.
mind that, just so long as I know that the drainage is gonna be taken care of.
Well,
because-
drainage will be looked at, I don't.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good idea for you to keep track of these meetings, because it will come into this meeting.
Well,
Yes.
not the site plan review, only the wetland line.
Yeah, I really need to,
Yeah.
and this is a running brook, actually,
So,
when it's wet.
are you submitting those for, are those
You
your
can,
copies?
they're
Okay.
copies of things I have on my phone.
Okay, then I
But
will,
this is actually a running brook, when it gets wet, I have a brook in my yard.
okay.
Oh,
So-
yes, that's what, that's.
Okay.
who you are.
I will, but this is just to establish the line, but I will put these in the file, and I'll, and you're, it's Christopher W.
Yeah,
and Donna.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I will put this,
I'm sorry, down Pettit. Oh, 33, 45, North Main Street. And that's in full, well. Yep. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So can I have a motion on this to hire third-party wetland science to confirm the wetland line
at the applicant's expense,
at the applicant's expense?
I'll make that motion.
and continue it to the next.
Continue to the next meeting.
I'll still make the motion.
I'll
So
second that
moved.
motion.
Okay, can we have a vote?
Aye.
Okay, vote passes.
And I'll get with Alex and the third-party consultant and get an estimate, and then get that agreed upon. Okay?
I don't want to be rude, just another rebuttal, and I'm at the top end, so I don't get the water.
Yeah. Beware if you live at the bottom of the hill.
I get the trees that are falling into my yard from that property. I don't get the water.
Okay.
Okay, next on the item is a request for determination of acceptability by RDA. File number is RDA 167, owner applicant Joseph Maderas. Project location is 596 Bay Street. Accessor's map is H-6-24.
It was filed on behalf of Gordetsky Engineering, on behalf of the owner, to construct a single-family house and related site work. Mr. Gordetsky called me late this afternoon and said that he was unable to attend, and I told him that I could make the presentation since this is, he's done about 10 RDAs on the development of all the different lots there, and this is the last lot. and houses are being constructed. I've reviewed the property with the city engineer. We would recommend a recommendation, negative determination. However, one of our issues is that silt fence in previous requirements was only placed at the bottom of the slope, and we would request that it be conditioned that silt fence be installed before and during construction at the top of the slope and at the bottom of the slope. And then condition number 2, that vegetation shall be established along the slope. If during winter months, then jute matting needs to be installed on all slopes to maintain erosion control. That would be our recommended conditions for the negative determination.
Okay. Alrighty, can I get a motion for?
Are there
Any questions?
any butters?
Any butters?
Yeah, Bill, I was down there. The jute mat is, it's got some spots where it's kind of running over. So
On other lots?
On that, yeah, and the lots a little bit further down from the ones that they've already been working on.
Okay, well, I'll go out with the city engineer and we constantly are working with Mr. Maderas to,
Keep an eye on things.
yes,
Very good.
so.
Excellent.
Okay, I saw that. I didn't quite know how to put it.
Not ready.
Good to me.
So can we have a motion for a negative determination, included in silk fencing at the top and the bottom of the slope during and before construction, with vegetation established along the slope. If it's winter time, we'll put the jute matting installed.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Can we have a vote?
Aye.
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 Vote passes. Third on the agenda is a notice of intent dash NOI file number SC-024, owner applicant DNS Marine, project location 1338 Duval Street, assessors map S219, filed by Mount Hope Engineering on behalf of owner applicant to maintain piles, a solid fill wharf, concrete wall, sheet pile, bulkhead, and overflowed and filled tidelands of the Taunton River. He's not here. Can I have a motion to put this?
Mr. Chairman, is there an applicant for that? Okay. We did receive, the engineer was unable to attend and they would like to continue the public hearing to the March 2nd, 2020, to the March 2nd, 2020. I don't know if there are any abutters that are here, but I would recommend that, if they are, to let them know that it would be on the March 2nd meeting. And since the applicant isn't here, because they were unable to attend, I would advise that we just continue it to that date, since they're not here to respond to any public hearing items.
Okay. Is there any butters here for that? Okay. So can I have a motion to table this to the March 2nd meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Alrighty. Next on the agenda is notice of intent, NOI file number SC-24, owner applicant Ken Pacheco, of City of Fall River Public Schools, project location 151 Amity Street. Assessor's map is C-14-1, filed by Lucas Environmental LLC on behalf of owner applicant to redevelop a 0.9 acre portion of a 17.6 acre parcel to construct a secondary access road, parking, sidewalks, drainage improvements, including infiltration basins on Henry Lloyd Community School work, as proposed in BVW and a 100-foot buffer zone.
Before the applicant gets started, Mr. Chairman and the board, the NOI number from the state has not been assigned, so therefore we couldn't make any kind of decision. I know that the city engineer has been working with the school district on this and with their consultants, and that what we're recommending is that we recommended that they come, they basically give you an overview and a presentation of what's going on, and that then you can ask any questions. If the public are here and they're concerned about anything, take in their concerns, and then it would have to be obviously continued to the March meeting. So with that, I will let you know. And if you would please speak up.
Yep.
One of the members has a little bit of hearing issue, so you need to pronounce or project.
Members of the board, Carlos Scopi with Civil Environmental Consultants. We're the civil engineering consultants for the city of Baltimore here. I'm here with Tom Liddy with Lucas Environmental, our wetlands consultant on this project. And again, we don't anticipate a vote today. We can't vote on it. We're here more just to present you the initial information, get some feedback, and then we'll be coming back at the next hearing ultimately for any sort of action if we're ready to move at that time. So I'll just walk you through a little bit on the site. Can everybody see this all right?
Are you folks back here
No,
for
I
the
can't
thing?
see
Yeah.
Why don't you come to this side and then they can then move it?
Yeah. Is this generally where people tend to sit up? I know for the camera it works better.
Yeah, I really can't see your man, I can't see that. Is it on?
Well, no, that's just the aerial.
It's on there,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is just not something I.
There should be a set of plans in the report as well in the
Yeah,
appendix.
there are a lot of pages,
Yes, there is.
and I don't know where to look. but
It
I'll
should be
look.
in the very back, the last few pages. Yep. Okay, so the school again is
Saw
the,
that one.
the Henry Lawrence Community School. It's at 151 Amity Street, so the site's bounded to the north.
Can you get on that side, because you can't see?
Okay,
I can't see anything.
There you go.
there we go. Does this work?
Thank you.
Okay, Amity Street's to the north of the site, we have Laurel on the east side, Cook Pond on the west, and Mariano Bishop to the south. The work right now is being proposed along the westerly edge of the site. Right now, there's an existing paved parking area. During events, sporting events, football games, people just come and park on grass there right now, which doesn't really work out all that well. So the project is intending basically to extend this access through and connect to Mariano Bishop Boulevard here.
Right.
So that's gonna be a one-way access, there's gonna be gates at both ends so that we can control the flow, so it's not intended to be a continuous operation. It's basically intended to be used during those sporting events as well as during bus pickup and drop-off time to also help ease the congestion for the school at the other points of egress as well. So again, one-way access coming out this way. And the reason we're in front of you today is that there are wetlands along Mariano Bishop here. So along this whole edge going towards Cook Pond, there's essentially a series of wetlands here, and Tom can speak to those and the characteristics there in a minute. But with that crossing, we would be impacting about, I believe it's 680 square feet of wetlands at this crossing here. We'll be installing a new drainage culvert beneath the road to hydraulically connect the up-gradient side of the wetland to the down-gradient side. And we'd be replicating at a 2-to-1 rate for the wetlands impacts in this area. And again, Tom can talk a little bit more about that. But under existing conditions, what we have at the site, everything on this portion of the site sheet flows, just surface runoff across the site towards Cook Pond. And at the northerly end of the site, right now, a portion of the parking lot drains to an existing depression that's located right here. It's unclear exactly what the intended purpose of that was. It's all overgrown now, there's weeds, bushes, trees there, but there's a drainage culvert in that depression, so at some point it may have been designed to provide some sort of detention. So we're actually gonna replicate that detention in a much more easier to maintain manner. So we're proposing infiltration basins to provide water quality improvements as well as recharge for the increase in paved areas that we're gonna have for the site. So we're gonna have one infiltration basin at the north end of the site here, which is gonna accept runoff from paved parking areas, which will all drain to a curb opening at this location here. The stormwater runoff will sheet flow through a sediment forebay and then into the infiltration basin here where the groundwater is gonna recharge. And it'll leave the basin through that same 15-inch culvert that currently drains towards Cook Pond as it does today. We're actually gonna put a riser on that pipe as well, so we could actually control some of the stormwater runoff without having it just immediately flow out of the basin. So that's gonna provide a little bit more recharge than we're getting today, as well as improved water quality. Taking a similar approach at the southerly end of the site, we graded the site so that it drains to a curb opening location here, and then there's a catch basin that we're proposing in this portion of the site that's gonna pick up the stormwater runoff. It's a deep soft-footed catch basin, so we'll provide the water quality and the oils capture as well. And then it's all gonna get piped to the sediment forebay, into the infiltration basin, where any stormwater in excess of the capacity of the basin would overflow with a riprap overflow and just continue down overland flow as it does
Right
today,
away,
towards the wetlands over here, which ultimately drain towards Cook Pond. So that's a high-level overview of what we're proposing today. Happy to take any questions, and at the same time can talk a little bit about the wetlands that we have here, if you have any questions on that, as well as what we're doing for mitigation.
Do you have any questions?
Yes.
Just state your name and address.
My name's Frank Xavier. I live at 158 Henry Street, directly across the street from the front doors of the school. I mean, I would have loved to see a roadway put through there when they originally built the school, to tell you the truth, because it's atrocious, the traffic and everything. So right away, when you say that you're gonna have gates and you're gonna have this locked off and it's only gonna be used when you use the fields, I'm totally opposed to.
For busing also, so it's gonna be used during.
Well, now you're changing what you said.
No, he said that in his presentation.
So are these gates gonna be locked or open?
They're gonna be open when the buses are operating, not for after
So in the
hours.
morning
We
and
don't want
evening.
people to have this be a cut-through when they're using for their own personal vehicles. We want it only to relieve the traffic that we're seeing at the school.
Well, on the flip side, we do have a nursing home at the end of Amity Street, which is a rehabilitation, which we have ambulances constantly going up and down. So if there's actually another access that they can get out, if there happened to be an accident on Amity Street, and when there was an emergency at the nursing home, they would be able to use that to get out if there was no gate there. I mean, if there's something there and it can benefit the community. So I'm just saying, why is it not just open all the time? Okay, the police can take care of that or whatever. I've called the police because of kids running across the top of Henry Lord's School. I live right across from the front door. We see all the time backups there. Like I said, I wish we had a road there a long time ago. So, right off the bat, I am for this, but at the same time, I think there's gotta be some things. One of our worst things on that street is the school itself. They use parking all over the place. With the additional parking back there, which is needed for the school itself, because of how many vehicles we have on that school. Because you talk about relieving stress in there. Is that gonna be open all during school hours?
The parking area is not intended to be, so that's more for the sporting events.
Well, that's what I mean. So again, we have another issue. I live right across the street. No one can come to my house anytime during the day when school is on, because there's no parking.
Are the teachers parked there?
Yes, they park there while there is still room in the parking lot. First thing in the morning, they'll line up in front of my house
6:30 in the morning.
so that they can go to school, directly walk across the street. This is an issue I've had for years. My mailbox is blocked, I don't get my mail. I had to go to City Hall here to get this notice because it wasn't delivered to my mail, because my box is blocked. The post office has us as a role. We have been threatened with having a mailbox put at the end of the street and having to go get our own mail because the post office, they cannot stop and get out of their vehicle to give us our mail, or they can be written up. Because it is a rural area, they were not supposed to leave their vehicle. So we've got all kinds of issues, and we've had since that school's been built. So when you propose additional parking, I am all for it. When you propose an alternative way out of that dead end, I am all for it. Now when you start throwing up barriers and restrictions to the things that are gonna help, I am opposed to it.
Last Saturday, there was a sporting thing at the school. Not one car was parked in that back parking lot, not one. They were all parked
along the front of the school.
Both sides,
Yep.
and along the street. And not only that, if people park in my driveway, I can't go tell them to get out of my driveway, because they tell me some things to do with myself.
We've been threatened.
We've been threatened, everybody
by,
on the street's
by
been
the
threatened.
public, by parents parking in our driveways because there's no place to park to come get their kids, okay? You come home, someone's in your driveway, park in front of their car so you can go in your house. Hey, dude, what are you doing? Dude, don't be talking to me, I know where you live.
Right.
They're in your driveway and they're threatening you.
Unfortunately, we're only.
I know, I
concentrating-
understand, but this is
I'm
all,
glad you got your-
we have so many, we have so
Yeah.
much issues.
This is,
So
have
when
you,
you say something good, it's good, and I love the whole intent,
Right.
and you start telling me that this not, the next thing is all this water.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, which is beautiful again, because we do have water issues on the street. If anybody goes down there, they know we get the flooding in those areas. So this is beautiful stuff. Amity Street has never been finished with a sidewalk on our side. People actually park in our yards. Is Amity Street gonna be finished with also, the curb on our side of Amity Street to help with the flow of water? Because there's no curb there now.
Okay.
Right.
We'll certainly discuss this with.
You know, I mean, these are.
Speak up, sir. I really can't hear a whole lot that you're saying.
Yeah, we've heard your comments and we'll speak to the city.
Because, I mean, that has to do exactly what you're talking about with the water, except it's all the way on the other side of the school, like you said. It all works that way towards Cook Pond.
Yep.
I do want to point out, sir, some of the stuff that, you know, the Conservation Commission is strictly this.
Right.
I know you're taking this opportunity to voice your issues and concerns. Regarding the parking of teachers and not using the parking lot, that's a enforcement issue for the school.
Yep.
And I would highly recommend, I would highly recommend.
My answer from them has always been, for 20 years I've been fighting this, and same thing from City Hall. We can't tell people where to park, and it's a public street, they can park anywhere they want.
I would highly encourage you to try to work with the school committee to encourage their employees to park in their parking lot. Regarding finishing off the street and with curb and sidewalk, I would encourage you to talk to the engineering department and see if that street is or could be put on the list for improvements. Now, mind you, there's a lot of streets.
Absolutely.
And so you've got several issues. One, talk to engineering regarding curbs, road improvements. Two, talk to the school district, and I'm sure we're gonna have I'm sure you'll be here next month on March 2nd
I'd
when
like
this
to
is
see a lot more
continued.
people from
But,
my neighborhood here.
but you can, the issue of parking on the street and the employees not using the parking lot is not under the purview of the Conservation Commission, but I would,
like you
I would
said,
voice
things
your
we
concern
mentioned,
to, he's gonna voice your concern, I'm gonna voice your concern also to the school, to Mr. Pacheco, and say, you know, they are employees, they should be encouraged to park in the parking
And
lot.
like I say, on the flip side, you just said that basically this additional parking is not for the school though.
So,
And that is
well,
an issue here.
from what I hear you say, and it's not an issue of conservation, it's the parking lot is empty and they're parking in front. So it sounds like the existing parking lot
Because they
would be
also know
sufficient.
there's not enough room. So they know once it fills up, hey, there was no room, I parked there.
Okay, well, this is an issue with the school
It's a
district.
catch-22 situation we get, but anytime anything
Is it
comes
adjacent
up-
to other parking,
Thank you.
this?
The school in general or this area?
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's other parking at the school. So there is parking along the front, there's not a whole lot of parking, and then there's some parking on this edge, so it is mainly limited to.
okay, so their
commercial
employee
vehicles.
parking is there, this would not be used for employee parking, be too far away.
It's not intended to be. used
Okay.
like that.
Okay,
I have a question.
Sure.
Mike
State your
Furtado.
name and address.
Yeah, Mike Furtado, 900 Mariano Bishop Boulevard. I'm from across the school where the
Could you
ball
speak up,
field is.
sir?
I'm sorry.
I can't hear
I'm-
you.
I'm across from where the ball field is. I'm on the opposite side of the school itself compared to this couple here. I have drainage on the side of my house that goes right now through there, which is eating away from my property consistently. What are we gonna do to fix that problem? Is that part of the plan? Is that part of your drainage that you're gonna be putting in towards the wetlands there?
So just to restate, so you have property here on the south side of
Yes.
Mariano Bishop,
Yep.
and it pitches towards the site here?
It comes from the school down. on the s-
Towards your house?
Towards my house, on the side of my house.
Okay, yeah, so the ball field, half of the ball field pitches in this general direction.
Mhm.
I think the other half of the ball field probably pitches towards your house.
Yes.
We're not touching anything on this portion of the site. We're only doing work along the westerly side. So
Okay.
we're gonna continue accepting all the stormwater that runs in this direction. Right now, we don't have any plans to modify anything or do any construction along Mariano
But
Bishop.
will that affect any of the drainage coming to my side?
No.
Where,
Yeah, so the ball field is
That's
there,
my
we're
concern.
not touching it, we're not modifying anything there. If there are issues there, we'll certainly talk to engineering about it, see if there's something.
yeah, my concern is that when you're doing that, is there gonna be an overflow that might come to my side, and then all of a sudden, I get even more water, which is eating my property line?
No, so
That's
the,
my concern.
yeah, so the high point here is a few feet higher than the area that we're working in, so everything will continue to pitch in this direction.
Okay.
And everything has been designed, so there's the one basin that's at this edge, there's a 15-inch pipe that drains this way, so we're tying into that pipe. And the other one just flows overland, so after the stormwater gets routed to the basins, it's just gonna overflow into this wetland. And the wetland connects right to Cook Pond, so it's like going that way.
Okay.
Does the board have any questions?
I just had one. I don't think there's a small path along Cook Pond,
There is, yep.
and you're not gonna change that, touch that in any way. It
We are
doesn't look
not.
like it. What?
So the path you're talking about, there's an entrance right here, so
Yep.
we're actually,
I'm just double checking.
yep, yeah, so we've designed the base, and that's why it has this, pie-shaped characteristics, so the cut-through is over here, where you have that sign for the walk-in path. So we've designed it in such a way that if people did want to park here and use that path, they would be able to walk around this basin and have pretty direct access still to what's there today.
Yeah, he said he's not.
We're not touching it,
You've got to speak up.
okay?
Yeah, I could not hear most of your presentation.
We are not touching the path. That's why we've designed the basin in this shape so that people could get direct access into the path that's there today. So we're gonna
Okay,
continue
so
that
people
access.
could get to the path, and they
Correct.
could walk the path.
Yes,
Fine. Thank you.
okay.
Please be careful for people who are old, will you?
I will project. I will enunciate and project.
So any other questions?
You said
Oh.
that parking lot in the back was never intentionally made for teachers parking?
No, but what I'm saying is that today, the parking lot stops right here, and this is all just grass area that people drive onto when there is football games in the spring, fall, and summer. So we're paving that to eliminate the potential for cars to park there. If they have oil leaks, things like that, it's soaked right into the ground. So now we're gonna be able to capture, collect all that storm water and any sort of spills that happen before it drains into the.
Is anybody taking any wildlife studies? Because, well, the geese did actually land there and use those wetlands and eat on that and poop all over where these parking lots are gonna go. Because, all of the fields, actually, if you ask anybody who plays in those fields, they'll tell you how much, goose droppings there are.
Yeah. Speaking, I know some of the answer is they've got to put in plastic turf will solve it, but otherwise you're not gonna get it. You might check the soccer field.
No, I'm saying how much land's gonna be taken away from the geese that land there now to eat and feed during their migrations.
Actually, they're not migrating, they live here. And,
Well, they're getting pushed out of all of that land.
yep, they'll be pushed
They still have
out.
the ball field
Maybe
You're
they'll go
right.
somewhere
You're
else.
right.
They'll
They
go in
are
the ball
all over
field.
there.
and the wetlands.
Yeah.
Yep, and the solution for the ball field is plastic turf.
But that's not being proposed.
Right, I'm just,
Yeah.
I know that.
And
the
for
whole
the
open
wetlands,
hunting season ain't being proposed either.
and we are replicating the wetlands that we are impacting here in the yellow highlighted area. We are replicating at a 2-to-1, so there's gonna be twice as many square feet of wetlands in the proposed condition than there is today.
And it won't affect the path, because I use the
No.
path.
No, you already
Nope,
said
the
that.
path is gonna stay as it is today.
Just state your name and address.
Go 369 Old County Road in Westport. Could you just talk about what culvert you plan on using and why?
Sure, so there's an existing culvert right now that's located in a existing depression that's
In
there.
regards to your stream crossing. the wetland crossing.
We're using a 12-inch just HDP culvert. There's a very small portion of the wetlands here that's up gradient, so it's essentially acting as a drainage swale in this portion here. So we're just accounting for the runoff that comes through here. It's been sized based on the tributary area of the stormwater that's draining to it. So it'll pass that stormwater under the road and connect the two sides.
All right, and I'm familiar with the site, but is there any reason why you wouldn't go with an open bottom to maintain natural passage?
Cost is a big consideration. So I think coming in with a culvert and then burying it and restoring the habitat there would be an added cost to the project and the taxpayers. And from an environmental habitat benefit, I don't know if there would be much of a benefit from that standpoint, because we're not really connecting two large wetlands. It's just this very small portion that just happens to be upstream of that area.
Right, this isn't like a typical stream crossing where you have continuous flows and you're trying to maintain some kind of habitat continuity. This is really just kind of a low area next to the roadway.
And for your 2-to-1 wetland mitigation, did you design the plant palette for that?
That is correct, yes.
Wonderful, cool.
Maybe I can go into a little more detail on that.
Yeah, it's like video.
Okay. So,
Are you going to enunciate?
I will try.
Your name?
My name is Tom Liddy, professional wetland scientist from Lucas Environmental. We've been working with CEC on the design and wetland mitigation associated with this project. As Carlos indicated, there's about 680 square feet of wetland fill right next to Mariano Bishop Boulevard. We are proposing to mitigate that wetland loss by creating a new replication area approximately 1,400 square feet in size. And what we tried to do here is to actually create a wetland system that's a little bit more enhanced than the impact area. And so what we typically do, we'll go in, we'll remove, we'll over excavate our target depth by about 1.5 feet. We bring in new soil, which is typically 50% weed-free compost and 50% loam. And then we will seed that area with a wetland seed mix that contains a variety of native herbaceous species. And we also prepared a robust planting plan that includes several red maple trees, some cottonwood trees, some other native shrubs like sweet pepperbush, I think speckled alder, and northern arrowwood to give it a more diverse vegetative community, because a lot of this area is actually invasive species. And so in addition to those plantings, thank you, Carlos. So we prepared a planting table. It's in the narrative. It's also on the plans. We're also going to include some habitat features that will hopefully provide some kind of habitat value for the wildlife. We usually will bring in, if we're cutting down trees, we'll bring in the old tree logs and place them on the ground, and sometimes we'll put them vertically so that various wildlife will actually be able to use this area. Because this does abut Cook's Pond and a large emergent marsh. So the intent is to really create something that will be an actual enhancement to the ecosystem in this area. So again, there's a lot more detail in the narrative, but if you have any more questions on that, I'd be happy to answer.
You'll be here next month, Joe?
Yes, that's correct.
Fine, because given our conversation, I want to go back through the stuff, and maybe we'll have more discussion.
Sure,
Maybe not.
And we'll be joined by the city engineer at the next meeting as well, so we'll be here representing the city as well.
Right on.
Okay,
Yep.
sounds good. All right. So can I have a motion to continue this to the March 2nd meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Right.
I'll second it.
Vote.
Aye.
Very much.
Next on the agenda is notification filed by MassDOT submitted January 21st, 2020 regarding 401 water quality certification amendment, number 1, Group C, Fall River Secondary Line.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is just the standard notification for some of the South Coast Rail. They, they're not subject to the conservation, they're subject to the 401 water certification and state DEP and their environmental impact report. And their, so I'm recommending you just receive and place on file.
Ready? Can I have a motion for that, or just?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can I have a motion placed on file?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Vote?
Aye.
Alrighty. Can I have a, let's see, a motion for approval of minutes, January 14th?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. Citizen input, would you like to come down and join us? We normally have a 3-minute cutoff, but we can,
Yeah.
We just have your name
Let me put a timer on to make sure I can accommodate that. I will try not to speak too quickly towards the end.
Not so much quickly, it's the volume
Clarity
and the
and
clarity.
volume.
I know in your presentation, there's nothing really as a board we can do, but we're glad to listen to and get it out there.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Laura Hapley, and this is Peter DeFusco.
You have to talk louder for Dr.
Yes.
My name is Laura Hapley, Peter DeFusco. I am an attorney, he's a wetland scientist. The project that we are proposing essentially involves using floating treatment wetlands that are temporarily installed in South Watuppa or Saudi. We're considering a few different locations. They use non-invasive plants that take up significantly higher amounts of phosphorus and nitrogen than other plants. And as they grow hydroponically, they extract the nutrients from the water column, thereby decreasing the overall concentration and essentially starving cyanobacteria and other harmful algae blooms. So the idea being that they act as an all-natural sponge to take up nutrients, reduce the overall concentration, and then they're removed at the end of the season, and the biomass is measured to determine the nutrient uptake ratio and the exact amount of phosphorus and nitrogen removed from the water, and then also the amount of CO2 removed from the air. So I have some materials. The first, and I understand that I haven't had a chance to look at them, the first just involves an explanation of floating treatment wetlands. The second is the USDA plant guide for the genotype that we are using. It's one particular genotype that is sterile and has come from certified domestic suppliers, grown in sterile soil, sterile environments, and then this, it has a lot of pictures despite the size. It's studies that have been completed, pilot projects that have been completed all over the globe. It's working really well all over the world. We've had great success in the last few years at Deval Pond and Grey Rock Farm, which is a smaller pond on a private farm, and it works
located where?
surprisingly well. Tiverton and Westport. And the technology is very simple. The approach has been used for thousands of years. We've compiled the safest plants. The floats themselves are non-leaching plastics. In all the materials.
all the materials are safe, and so we just had a few questions as far as what the commission may or may not need as far as notice of intent and other permitting requirements or.
So what we plan on doing is we're gonna try to go through chapter 91 with a 10A, which would negate coming to this board. But what we wanna do is keep an open communication, considering this is a conservation-based project, and we're doing it for the community, so we wanna be involved together. Having said that, if we don't get approved for a 10A through the harbor master, we will need to come to Conservation Commission as we're putting temporary floats in a resource area. So some of our questions would be float sizes, materials, safety concerns, monitoring requirements, and then reporting requirements. So those are some of the things we were hoping to get some feedback, as when we prepare our permit application, we can cater to these.
What is the average size of a, I guess you'd call it a floating garden? What is the,
They're 2x2 foot floats that have 16 plants on each, and the plants are staged not in a resource area, and so the root systems grow into the inner grow medium that's part of the float, so they hold themselves to the float. So it's 2x2, and then you can connect them either to form a barrier, an arc around an area that has high inflows, or a series of them to act as.
Where are you looking at potentially putting these?
The ideal locations would be off Fedora Point.
Off where?
At Fedora Point, it's on the southwestern side of South Watuppa.
Southwest, that's Fall River.
Yes. It's right on the border, and there are there's a piggery and another dairy farm that are upstream from that.
I think the piggery's gone.
Oh, is it? Oh,
You're talking
wasn't
about
aware.
Monas, the piggery that was so famous, that had a lot of publicity a few years ago. Yeah, there's a dairy farm, a Ruta's Dairy.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't have any pigs now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. just
So are
you
they
know.
close to shore, and you're looking at where, if I hear you correctly, in front of either some sort of discharge or outfall that is highly susceptible to having higher contaminants?
Yes.
Yes, so based on granted it's antiquated, a 1990 public report and study, it located, let's see, 9 or 10 different point sources for inflows, and that one particularly had high levels of phosphorus and nitrogen. And so those are
That's a 1990 report, you said?
Yes, and generally.
The pigs were there then.
Yeah.
And even if there aren't.
Flows from a
pigs
dairy
there,
farm,
any
and
flows-
farm is high in
Dairy
nitrogen
farm.
and phosphorus.
Dairy farm, yeah.
Right,
And a concentrated outfall would be the same.
Right,
Because
so
it
to
would
the-
be taking parking lots and streets and all of those sorts of things.
Exactly.
So you're not proposing it like in a lot of the navigational area?
No, and looking at it, we were thinking that including reflectors.
How is
just
this
to-
being funded?
We have not yet figured that out. We're speaking with the rowing club and the city of Fall River and a number of other community groups and individuals around the watershed to figure out the exact deal structure. And we thought that a good first step would be to come and speak with you to see if there were lots of monitoring and reporting requirements, which would then increase the cost. So trying to gauge how much monitoring and reporting would be required, if any, and to answer any other questions that you may have.
it'd be nice to know. How many pods would it take to make the numbers right?
So based on size alone, between Duval Pod and South Watuppa, analogously, only based on size, not factoring in the hydrology, it would be, well, it's 26 times the size, so we would need approximately 275 to 300 floats located at the primary inflow places. There are also inflows on the northeast, which
Northeast.
as, near Route 6, near White's.
Yeah, White,
Yeah.
yeah, and probably Gordon Street too.
Right, and they, as of the 1990 report, which of course things have changed.
Well, that part has not changed that much. The changes would be that there is a sewer line along, most of the Fall River shore now has sewers, but not everybody hooked up. The Westport side, I think, is pretty much the same, but you would know more about that than I, because you're from there. But my understanding is possibly some of the septic systems have improved, but not all.
I recommend giving us the information. Patty can scan it and present it to the board, but I would recommend that you would probably need to set up I recommend setting a meeting up with Paul Ferlin, who is the Deputy Administrator for Community Utilities, because I think that the Watuppa Water Board, I believe, controls the water rights, and so they would probably have a big say in what you want to do, and any type of meeting would be probably with him, myself, and the city engineer. And then, we would take whatever information and the city engineer, I probably would talk with DEP and say, okay, what type of permitting is needed for this?
Right.
So, but we don't really know.
Okay.
You can't get any answers from us tonight, because I conceptually understand, what you want to look at doing.
Yeah.
And I do understand if you want to try to permit it through the harbor master as a floating dock, which might kind of be a stretch. I understand how I understand.
If we can cut, the costs to the folks for a restorative project, we're gonna try to.
Yeah. So, and might not be a lot that we require. I assume they're anchored in?
Yes.
Probably helix or no, you wouldn't want to go to the expense of helix anchors, because those are permanent.
Do you have a recommendation for a temporary one that you would prefer to see?
No, I've dealt with more in my previous job on the water in the ocean, which had eelgrass and quahogs and all sorts of other stuff. You don't have that here, so we'd have to look towards DEP. But I'm assuming that you'd probably want some sort of weighted anchor versus the expense of helix anchors, because a helix anchor would be for like the rowing club would probably want to put their portable floats, we've talked with them, with helix anchors that are then permanent, and then they take them out and they can attach them each time. Sounds like if this is successful and you can find funding and it's done, you may want to move these around. Well, you don't want to put the expense of driving in anchors. You'd probably use, some sort of weighted material. Obviously, not an engine block, but, there's the concrete blocks and mushrooms, and there's all sorts of.
A clean cinder block.
Yeah.
A clean cinder block.
So, whatever weighted material that would be appropriate that would hold them down. And you don't have tides and various things. So, so if you wanted to give me the material, we can have Patty scan it, and then I would recommend that you want to set up a.
Yes.
Mike, what's the good person to talk to too?
Paul Ferlin, Mike works for Paul. He's more of the forester. We would. I recommend that you.
Last year we spoke with both Paul and Mike, and they were interested in the project and
Yeah,
supportive from a theoretical
Right.
perspective. So we will definitely circle back on those conversations. I also have a copy of the Wetlands Protection Act. There was another subsection that my interpretation was that it could potentially fall under the exclusion. It's at 310 CMR 10.02B2G. So I'll just put a star next to it. And
Okay.
leave it for you if you want
That's
to take
fine.
a look.
I don't read it every day, so.
Come on, you don't know that off the top of your head?
I'm the planning director, and every time someone asks me a question, even though I know what the setbacks are in whatever zone, I always pull the code out,
Yeah.
and I look just to reinforce it.
It's
So,
good practice.
it's just to have it. So,
If a notice of intent were required and we had multiple sites within the pond or potentially South Watuppa and Saudi Pond, would one notice of intent be sufficient, or would you need a separate
that's a
notice
discussion
of
that you could have with
intent?
myself, the city engineer, and Paul Furlan.
Perfect, okay.
So,
Excellent.
as the planning director, conservation comes under me, so I'm theoretically, well, as far as the city's concerned and the state, theoretically, I am the conservation agent. But the city engineer and I work in concert, and then Mr. Furlan, answers to the Watuppa board, and they're the ones that control the water. So, pretty much, you've kind of given them an overview, me an overview. Really need to kind of get some information and set up a meeting, and then kind of talk about the nuts and bolts of what's needed and what's not needed.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
From my standpoint, if this is something that we want to do, and it's, the Conservation Commission, if it's a positive thing, is typically not in the position, they typically want to help and not want to, stand in the way. Especially some members that might live on South Watuppa.
That's right. Actually, I did have one question for you.
Yes.
Are you part of a group or an agency or?
So Fresh Lake Solutions.
Say it again.
Fresh Lake Solutions is the company.
So
It's an LLC.
So it's a private company?
Yes.
For profit?
Yes.
Okay. And the two of you are both with Fresh Lakes?
Yes.
Okay. And where's Fresh Lakes located?
Our office is in Boston, and then we also have a field office in this area, seasonally.
Okay. That's
Just
probably.
trying to clean the water in a cost-effective manner that's safe and relatively non-intrusive. And all that.
Well, thanks for sharing your idea with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
I'm encouraged. Get it done while I can still swim.
We'll work on it.
All right, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
All
second the
right,
motion.
meeting adjourned.
You'll second it?
Thank you so much.
Good song.
Just like my question.